It's the Right Word Awakened, an invigorating engagement of words, spirit, mind, and self. With word stylist Emily, you can call her Claudette Freeman. Reimagine your words, rewrite your power, recreate your life, renew your story, right here on the Right Word Awakened podcast. It's all part of the Right Word Awakened movement, an Emily Claudette Freeman vibe.
Yes, it is the Right Word Awakened podcast. I am so happy y'all came back one more time. I try to have these wonderfully well-rounded, thought-provoking shows for you. And the wonderful thing that I like about the Right Word Awakened podcast is every one that we've done to date has challenged me. And so I'm hoping that they're challenging you and that they're making you stronger, more powerful in your life, more authentic in your life, and just really embracing who you are, no matter who you are and what you're put here on this earth to do. So, having said that, we're going to jump into this episode of the WWA podcast. And just so you know, the podcast is actually part of what I call a whole Right Word Awakened movement that includes several things. But I want to invite you to check out one particular thing that's part of the Right Word Awakened movement, and that's called Monday's Stirrings. And you can find it on my YouTube channel, YouTube. Look for Emily Claudette Freeman, and you'll see Monday's Stirrings. Monday's Stirrings is a digital journal that examines whatever word or phrase is really just stirring in my head and in my spirit. And so I kind of do this digital journaling about it to spark some thoughts for you. So do check that out. But today we are talking about stepping into your wings. Stepping into your wings. And so when I thought about this, I was like, okay, well, who could I really invite that has some powerful insight on this? And then I remembered a wonderful young lady that I had the opportunity to meet as an editing client, and just listening to her talk about her book and about why she was writing the book, and breaking down character development and comparing characters to real life, I discovered that she has this wonderful insight when it comes to transformative processes. And so I want to welcome to the Right Word Awakened podcast, Stephanie Outten. How are you?
I'm doing great, Claudette. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining. Let me tell you a little bit about Stephanie. Stephanie is a dynamic transformation agent who leverages her writing and coaching skills to guide women in breaking through their pain story in order to live in their joy story. I like that, by the way. She is the creator of Cocoon to Wings Publishing and Coaching, where her platform is centered on joy. After facing her own personal storms from childhood to adulthood, she spent 2 years before God seeking his face, and through her infertility journey, she birthed her first novel, Is This the Way to Joy? She's also a co-author in the best-selling anthology Soul Talk, where she tells her story of how she let go and let God. She holds an undergraduate degree in mass communications, public relations from the University of South Florida, and a graduate degree in organizational management, human resources from the University of Phoenix. And later on, we'll make sure that we give you her website. But Stephanie, let's dive right into the conversation. First of all, you talk about in your bio, and you and I talked about some of it in our encounters with each other, but tell us a little bit about some of these personal storms that you experienced.
Sure. And again, Claudette, I just want to thank you for allowing me the platform to be able to share with your listening audience today. It truly is a blessing for me. My journey started, my pain story really started when I was about 12 years old. I had an encounter where I was attacked, gang attacked by 6 boys. Fortunately, I was not raped, and I thank God for that every day, but that really set me on a path of not really understanding who I was as a girl, and then growing into a woman, not understanding how I was supposed to be treated, and not allowing myself to fully explore who I was as a person, but allowing other people to define that for me. And so I entered into relationship after relationship, finally getting married and still not knowing myself and allowing those relationships to form who I was. And it wasn't until I got a divorce, or really the moment that my now ex-husband asked for a divorce, that I realized, wow, I've never explored who I am. I've never transformed into this person that I know I'm supposed to be. And that's what set me on that path of really working through my own transformation and really being able to work through what I consider my 4 life cycle stages to be able to transform into the person that I am today. And I am grateful for every single experience. I wouldn't take anything back. A lot of people want to go back and they regret their journey, but I don't regret anything about my journey because it allowed me to be in this place today, the woman that I am, and the woman that I am being able to pour back into the lives of other people who are either facing something now, face something in the past where they've remained stuck. And I want to be able to work with them to be able to move past that stuck place into that transformative place, really into that place of being the butterfly, where they can actually set their wings free and begin to soar. So that's a little bit about my journey.
Okay. And so, Stephanie, would you say that what happens is for so many of us, we know the pain story, we live that pain story, but it's hard to get out of that pain story. So what happens is we build and we wrap our whole life around that one thing, and even though it's tragic and traumatic, we can't seem to find a way to move beyond it.
Oh, absolutely. It goes back to, like I said, just being stuck. When we have our pain story, we love to live in our pain story. We love to tell our pain story. We want people to be able to, join in on our pain story. And I just don't believe your pain story is what's going to guide you to that next level. Absolutely, it's a part of who you are, and it is what allows you to be the person that you are. But you have to be able to move past that pain story. You have to be able to work through the necessary steps to get to your joy story, that power story, that place where you can say, sure, I experienced this, but you know what? I'm not staying stuck here. I have a new story that I want to write. I have a new story about who I am today.
Exactly. And I think you and I, since you and I both write fiction, we understand that sometimes in the writing of a character, it's difficult because, especially when there's a pain story, you struggle with yourself as an author. Do you allow the character to stay in that role of victim and downtrodden, or how do you find a way to weave this character into a place of victory, or where they realize, like you just said, that your pain story doesn't have to be painful. It is what it is, but what did it help you become, or what can you become out of it? And so let's take a quick break, Stephanie, and then when we come back, let's talk about the whole, because you talked about the 4 stages that you develop, and I know, and doing my research for the show, I did a little research on butterflies, and so I know that there are 4 stages in that little I felt like I was in science class again, Stephanie. I was like, okay, okay. So let's take a quick break, and then let's come back and talk a little bit about that. We'll be right back on the Right Word Awaken podcast.
Are you married? Do you and your husband both have term life insurance? If you both don't, you should. You have a lot to protect. Call now, get a free quote for your husband, and while you're at it, get a quote for yourself too, because you both need term life insurance. Call now. 800-915-9542, 800-915-9542, 800-915-9542. Rates are at all-time lows. We'll shop over 30 top-rated companies to get you the best possible rates. Term life insurance, it's the perfect way to protect the quality of your family's lifestyle. You and your husband both need term life insurance, so call now for a free quote for the both of you. 800-915-9542, 800-915-9542, 800-915-9542.
Now back to the show to employ reimagined words and stories in the strategic plotting of your life journey. The Right Word Awakened.
before the break, we were talking about the fact that you mentioned 4 stages, and there are actually 4 stages in the metamorphosis process for the butterfly as well. But we were also talking about the fact that you have to choose not to be a victim in your pain story. And I remember encountering a woman who had a pain story, and it was a very difficult story. But in every setting that I encountered her, because we moved in some of the same circles, she was continuously telling her pain story. And she would always tell it from the place of the victim. And what I realized is that the pain and the victimization of the story was what she felt drew people to her. So it was kind of what she used to build relationships. And it was also, unfortunately, what she thought, for lack of a better way of explaining it, is kind of what she thought gave her value.
Yeah, it defined her. Absolutely.
Right. And so do you find that to be the case with some of when you're working with people from the whole cocoon to wings, a process that for some that story has just defined them? And so I'll tell you the story, and you be my friend, and you be my prayer partner. And so we place ourselves in a position of victim, and that's who we are, and that's who we are, and all of the roles in our lives, we're the victim.
Absolutely. And the sad part about that is because we tell that pain story, that victim story so much, and it does define us, it will begin to attract those people who are interested in that type of story. But what you have to realize is you have to set yourself apart. You have to begin to realize what that pain story is accomplishing for you and the types of people that it's attracting to you. And you have to create a whole new set of friends. You have to create a whole new environment in which you invite people in who really care about you getting to that next level, not staying stuck in that pain story. Because if all you're doing is surrounding yourself with people who are attracted to your pain, you need to shift into a new environment, because that's a very unfortunate place to be. You don't want to be in a situation where people only want to be around you for the pain, right? Because what kind of painful place are they in? We weren't created to be individuals that allow people to perpetuate pain. We were created to be able to pour into people positive things to allow them to shift to that next level. And so you can't do that until you go through that transformation process yourself.
Yeah. And I think the question becomes then, are you in a relationship with someone who is applauding your role as victim so that they don't have to look at their own stuff? And if that is the case, then you're simply being made the victim all over again.
Absolutely. And that's the painful part, is we love to be able to be surrounded with those people who are going to just continue to clap and applaud the pain, but never be able to take you to that place of joy and moving past that and being into that powerful place in your life. And it really does take me to those 4 stages of a butterfly, because as I think about the metamorphosis and the whole process that, this caterpillar has to go through in order to become this beautiful butterfly, it makes me think about all the things that we have to go through as human beings just to get to that place of transformation. So if you would love to dive into that now, Claudette, we can certainly do that.
I do want to dive into that, but I want you mentioned earlier that there was that moment when your husband asked for a divorce, that you had a moment of realization. And so then your life shifted from there. So talk to me first a little bit about that moment, and how do you recognize for yourself that you're potentially in that moment where you now have to face these 4 stages?
Yeah. So we were separated for about 2 years before it got to the place of him asking for a divorce. And I remember it so clearly because I was at work, came home from work, and he was literally sitting, in the living room waiting for me to come home, and his bags were packed. And that was the moment when I realized this is truly over. This is no longer just a separation. He's leaving. And that painful place came when he mouthed those words, I can't do this anymore. I think you're better off without me. I want a divorce. And it was at that moment I felt myself take a deep breath, and I realized all that time that we had been separated. And at that moment when he asked for the divorce, that whole period of time that I had been stifling myself, stifling my own life, not pursuing my own dreams, not knowing who I was as a woman. And it was when he said, you're better off without me, that I realized, oh my gosh, I think he's absolutely right. And as much as I care about him and cared about him as a person, I realized I had become a different person through our separation. I had begun the process of exploring myself and understanding what I truly wanted as a woman. And I began to look at those things in my life that had kept me in bondage and trapped to a past place of pain. And him telling me that I was better off without him, as much as it hurt me, he set me free that day. And I remember taking a deep breath, and I realized, wow, now I can truly go be who I'm supposed to be for me, not for him, because I defined my whole life around him, and now I needed to do it for myself. And so I was grateful.
I think you raised an amazing point, is sometimes it takes someone having a hard and releasing conversation with you, and for you to just take a moment to breathe in that conversation and hear the truth of the matter, as opposed to responding in anger immediately or responding negatively immediately. Sometimes you have to take a breath and say, okay, you know what? You may actually be on to something.
Yes.
You may be on to something. So I'm ready now. I got my notepad. Stephanie, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. So let's talk about stage one. So stage one, when you think about a butterflies start out as these teeny tiny little eggs, right? And it takes about 5 days for the caterpillar to hatch from that egg. And with humans, it's really where our life begins. And that's not necessarily about your birth, right? It's not about when you come into this world as a baby, but it's that pivotal point in your life when you realize a shift is happening and you realize you're ready to start again, right? It's where you start to debunk those myths about yourself. The, I'm not worthy. Who could ever love me? You know that crap that we tell ourselves, right? Those things that we keep hearing over and over. It's the stereotypes, the challenges that keep us from fully imagining the person that we were destined to be. And we wake up and we realize, you know what? It's time to start creating a life that I was purposed to live. And I like to call that stage the I Imagine Me stage. From that Kirk Franklin song, Imagine Me, which is one of my favorite songs. It's where you start to believe it's time to imagine a new me. It's time to start my life again. It's time to start pursuing that place where I'm supposed to be at my greatest and my highest vision for myself.
Okay. The I Imagine Me phase.
I Imagine Me.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, stage two. Stage two, I like to call that reversing the curse. So stage two for a caterpillar is called that larva stage, right? It's where the caterpillar, they eat all day, they eat all night, and they become so big that they start to shed their old skin. And I like to correlate this to how we as humans begin to immerse ourselves in new learnings. We begin to educate ourselves about the generational curses that have been passed down through our bloodline, those things that make us believe those negative things about ourselves that truly do not have to exist in our own lives. We begin to grow in the knowledge of who we are today and who we want to be. And we become so full from that new knowledge about ourselves that the shell that was once holding us hostage to who we used to be, it starts to crack. And every time we walk around, we start hearing this noise around us. And what we're hearing is the shell that's cracking around us. We're starting to shed our old skin and our old cells in order to get ready for that transformation.
So phase two, Stephanie, seems to me like it could be a very intimidating place, because it sounds like phase two could invite a whole lot of conversation from outside people, meaning your friends, your families, associates, just people saying, well, what's wrong with you? You seem a little brand new. What are you going through? You know?
Yeah.
It seems like it puts you in that place where you have to kind of say, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. Or as they say in this generation, I'm not about that life anymore, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And that seems a little scary, Stephanie.
Of course. You know what? The entire transformation process is scary because we get so comfortable, right? We get so comfortable in our cocoon. It's safe in the cocoon. It's safe to have these same old friends and these same old habits and do the same thing over and over and over and never be able to fully explore something new. We like that place of comfort. And when people start to question, wow, I see something different happening within you or happening to you, of course it's going to make us start to feel scared and we become intimidated because we start to think, oh, well, what is it that they're seeing? Well, why are they saying that about me? And we allow what they start to say about us and what they say to us start to settle in. But when you're truly ready, and that's what I have to tell my clients, you have to be ready for transformation. You can't just say, I want to transform. You actually have to be ready and willing to take the action steps that it's going to take for you to have your personal transformation so that when people start to say things up to you and about the changes that they're seeing, it doesn't faze you, right? It doesn't faze you.
You can't be distracted by it.
Yeah, you cannot be distracted. What you have to do is allow it to fuel you to get to that next place, not distract you from moving forward. And that's where so many people get stuck. They become distracted by what other people think about them. But transformation is for you. It's for you first. And once you're able to transform yourself and for yourself, then you can be able to invite other people into this new life that you have. Then you can allow people to recognize what the transformation is all about. And those people who don't recognize or understand it, those people are not for you, and you have to distance yourself from those people. It's okay to start breaking off relationships in this stage because, again, it's about shedding that old skin. And if they're not about your transformation and moving you forward, then they got to go, period. Right? Because like the caterpillar, we can't stay in this, and we can't stay in this stage too long. When we start to shed our old skin, we can't stay there too long, right? Because we're starting to become too big to stay where we are. Right. And that's a good place to be.
And so what you learn in phase one in the I Imagine Me phase is where you then you map it out. You look at this new person, this new woman that you want to become, that you know you can become. And you hold fast to that. You hold true to that. But that doesn't mean when you get to phase two that you then owe it to anybody or that you should feel compelled to take the time to explain this new I Imagine Me to anybody.
No, absolutely not, because it's about you. The only person you need to explain it to is yourself and to God. That's it. Because that's where the transformation is taking place within you. So if you feel like you have to explain yourself, there's a problem. There's a problem. You don't have to explain yourself. You just need to transform, period. And you need to start setting a path for that transformation. You need to outline who it is that you want to be at the end of this process. You need to set up your positive affirmations. You need to do your mirror work. You need to have your stickies, whatever you need to do to get to a place of speaking those positive things into yourself so that you can transform. You have to do that. You have to set up your action steps. And you can't allow what anyone else says to take you off that path.
So in phase two, where we are reversing the curse, do we have to, Stephanie, acknowledge what the curse is, whether it's something that's generational or whether it's just some mind chatter that we picked up along the way, or whether it's something we've been told in our relationships. You're too arrogant, you're too selfish, you're too giving. Or do we have to identify what the curses are we need to reverse?
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot address what you don't acknowledge. There's no way that you can address something that you haven't acknowledged. When I was going through my own transformation stage, I recognized generational curses that had been spoken over my life. And I went back to my earliest memory, and I started writing down what were those things that were being said to me. What were those things that I began to believe about myself? And where did I see that showing up in my bloodline? Where did I see that showing up within my mother, within my siblings, and those people who are part of my bloodline? And I wrote those things down. And for me, because I am a Christian and I use my my spirituality and my faith in God to guide what I do, I wrote those curses down and I created a prayer to break those generational curses over my life. And because I was able to acknowledge what they were and address them through my prayer, I began to see things totally shift in my life. I began to speak a whole new language about myself. And even when family members would say things and say, oh, that's just our family. Absolutely not. No, it's not. I'm going to reverse this curse because that's not who our family is. That's not what we intend to be or who God called us to be. And so for me, I had to be able to take action by creating my prayer and speaking that prayer boldly and walking through my house and saying that prayer and speaking that prayer into my family members for me to be able to break that curse, that generational curse over myself. So when I work with my clients, we look at what is it that you've continued to trap yourself in? What are those things that you believe about yourself, those curses, and how can we break them? And if someone is not a Christian and, you know, we're working from a different space, then we will look at what's the action steps to be able to take you through breaking those curses over yourselves. If it's not through prayer, then how are we going to do that in a way that works best for you?
Awesome. Let's take another quick break, Stephanie. And then when we come back, I can tell you already we're going to have Stephanie back, guys, because we're not going to probably do 3 or 4 this show. But that's okay, because we'll bring her back so she really has time to discuss those. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back on the Right Word Awaken podcast.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4811. 800-978-4811. 800-978-4811. That's 800-978-4811.
We're telling your words and stories to wake up. It's the Right Word Awaken podcast.
So we still have phase 3 and phase 4 that we want to get to, but we're going to bring Stephanie back for a part 2 to do that and to talk about how wonderful it is to fully step into your wings and why that should be something you should be excited about. But for this episode, Stephanie, give us some closing thoughts to take with us until we bring you back.
Oh, sure. What I love to share with my clients is, and those who are willing to listen, and those who have open ears and are ready to receive, is that, you know, transformation is a process, and we have to be willing to trust the process. We have to be willing to walk through the steps and know that the process is for a reason. And don't try to rush it. So many times we try to rush that process and move past different steps, but you have to be able to take the right steps in order, right? And you have to understand what that order is for your life in order to be able to move through your transformation stage. And you have to really believe within yourself. Believe in yourself. You know, so many times we get stuck in a place where we believe so much of other people. We believe in what other people say and what other people do, but we don't trust ourselves and we don't believe in ourselves. So I want people to understand that you have the power within you to transform. And if you don't believe in yourself and believe in your own transformation, you're not going to be able to move forward at all. And then you have to really, look at what makes you joyful. Because for me, I distinguish happiness and joyfulness as two completely different things. Happiness is so cyclical. It's about what's happening around you. It's those things that, hey, when this is going well, I'm happy. But when this is going poorly, I'm unhappy. And that's so unstable. And who wants to operate in such an unstable mindset? For me, joy is internal and it's eternal. And when you can find that place within you where nothing, no matter what is happening around you, you still feel joy, you still feel excited, you still feel full every day, then you know you have accomplished and experienced joy. And when you have that joy, you have a joy cup that begins to overflow. And when you have that overflow, that's when you can start pouring into other people's lives. So those are the three things I want people to remember and to
I love that. A cup of joy overflowing. A cup of joy overflowing. So really quickly, Stephanie, tell people where they can connect with you online and on social media and where they can find your books.
Absolutely. So you can connect with me via my website, which is StephanieOutten.com, and it's the traditional Stephanie, STEPHANIE, Outten, OUTTEN.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. We're going to have Stephanie back for another episode so we can get phase 3 and phase 4 for you and continue our conversation as she touched on here, getting to joy, stepping into your wings so that you fully get into joy. So on every show, I want to end with an affirmation and intention and something called your move, which means it's an action that you have to take. So our affirmation for this discussion, stepping into your wings, is I embrace the process of transformation and I am encouraged by what it brings. I embrace the process of transformation and I am encouraged by what it brings. Your intention, I learn all I need for positive and productive metamorphosis in my life, and then I teach it to others. And here's your move based on something Stephanie just said. Write the curse and write something to break the curse. If that is a prayer, if it is a poem, whatever it is, write the curse and then write something that breaks the curse that you can speak aloud in your life daily. So what you're doing here is creating a language of your own for transformation. So write the curse, write something that breaks the curse to create a language of transformation. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Right Word Awaken podcast. We'll talk to you next time.
You've been listening to The Right Word Awakened, an invigorating engagement of words, spirit, mind, and self with word stylist Emily. You can call her E. Claudette Freeman. Want more information? Visit www.eclaudetteliterary.com. For sponsor, guest, and other show information, email rightwordawakened@eclaudetteliterary.com. Until next time, tell your words to wake up.